I'm Adrian, and I've been driving long haul for about 12 years now. I started when our youngest turned 15 and didn't need her mom around as much anymore. Samantha and I had talked it through. Me going out on the road, it made sense. The money was much better than anything I could earn staying local in our small town. 3 weeks out, 1 week back home. That became our rhythm. At first, it worked. I called her every night, no matter which truck stop I ended up at. Didn't matter if I was parked behind some diner in Nebraska or waiting for a load in Laredo. Samantha always picked up by the second ring. "Hey babe, where are you tonight?" she'd ask. "Just outside of Des Moines," I'd say, hauling prefab walls for that new housing development. She always asked follow-up questions. "What kind of walls? How long is the haul? When do you think you'll be back through?" It made me feel like she missed me, like I was still part of her daily life, even from far away. When I got home for that 1 week, it felt good. We'd go grocery shopping, fix things around the house, catch up on our shows. She'd show me pictures the girls had sent. We'd talk about the neighbor's new car, just little stuff. After 22 years of marriage, everything felt solid. But something changed. I don't know exactly when. Maybe sometime last spring. That's when she stopped asking about my routes. I remember calling her from a truck stop in Arizona. I had just picked up a load of steel beams headed for the Carolinas. I was sitting in the cab, sandwich in one hand, phone in the other. "Hey, hon," I said, just loaded up in Tucson. Headed cross-country this time. Gonna take the southern route and swing up through Atlanta. There was a pause. "That's nice, honey," she said. Then she changed the subject. The call started getting shorter, too. We used to talk for at least an hour every night during my rest break. I'd be parked in a rest area or truck stop, eating something I grabbed from a gas station deli. She was my connection to home. She told me the local gossip from the county clerk's office, asked about what I saw on the road, what I was hauling, if dispatch was giving me trouble. Those calls kept me sane on the long stretches away. No matter how tired I was, hearing her voice made things feel normal, like I wasn't just a ghost living out of a truck cab. But then, she started cutting the calls short. "I can't talk long tonight," she'd say 5 or 10 minutes in. "I need to call Linda back, something about her kid's recital." Or, "Sorry, hon, I've got the laundry going and the basement might be flooding again. Can I call you tomorrow?" Always something urgent. Somewhere she had to be. Back then, I figured she was just adjusting to the routine. 3 weeks out, 1 week home. That gives a person a lot of alone time. Maybe she was finding her own rhythm while I was away, building a life that didn't have to pause just because I wasn't there. And I thought that was healthy. I mean, who wants their wife just sitting around waiting at the window? That kind of independence made sense, right? Looking back now, I realize how naive I was. The first real red flag came during my home week in June. I remember it clearly. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, checking our bank statements online. There were some house repairs I wanted to take care of, replacing some siding, fixing a leaky faucet. I just wanted to see how much room we had in the budget. That's when I noticed the charges. A place downtown I'd never heard of, La Mer or La Mar, something like that. Expensive dinners. Over and over. Always when I was gone. 60, 70 bucks a meal, sometimes even more. Way more than Samantha ever spent on herself. That evening, when she came home from work, I brought it up casually. I didn't want to sound accusing. "Hey babe," I said. "I was just going over the bank statement. Noticed you've been going out to eat a bit lately." She froze. Set her purse down a little too carefully on the hall table. "Yeah," she said. "So what? I mean, no big deal," I said, holding my hands up. "Just looked like some pretty fancy meals. Thought maybe you were treating yourself." That's when she got defensive. Her eyes narrowed. Her lips tightened. "Well, excuse me for having a social life while you're off doing God knows what across the country," she snapped. "I've been meeting up with the girls more often, okay? I need the interaction. You're not exactly around much, Adrian." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, sure, I get it. I was just asking. Didn't mean anything by it." And on the surface, it made sense. Of course she needed friends. Of course she needed to feel like she wasn't just stuck waiting on me. But something in her voice, something in the way she reacted, it didn't sit right. Her response felt too intense for a simple question. Still, I didn't push. Figured maybe I was just being paranoid. Then came the gym membership. And Samantha, She had never shown the slightest interest in working out, not once in all the years we'd been together. She was always comfortable with who she was. That was one of the things I'd always loved about Samantha. She never felt the need to change herself. No fuss, no drama. She didn't chase trends or worry about what others thought. She was just herself, and I admired that. So when I came home in July and saw this gym membership card on the kitchen counter, one of those shiny plastic cards with a logo that looked like it belonged on a spa brochure, I was confused as hell. "What's this?" I asked, holding it up when she walked in from work. "Oh, that," she said, waving it off like it was nothing. "It's just a new gym. I signed up with the girls." "You? A gym?" I tried to keep the surprise out of my voice, but she noticed. Gave me this look. "Yeah, I want to get in better shape," she said. "Maybe lose a few pounds." "What's wrong with that?" "Nothing," I said quickly. "Absolutely nothing. I just didn't think you were the gym type, that's all." She shrugged. "Well, maybe I am now." It didn't make much sense to me. She'd always been comfortable in her own skin. Used to say things like, "I'm not 20 anymore, and that's okay." Or "comfort over style, Adrian, always." But I figured people change. I wasn't about to make her feel bad for trying something new. I told her I thought it was great she was taking care of herself. "Hell, maybe I'll tag along when I'm home," I joked. "Could do us both some good." But she shook her head right away. "Nah, I go with the girls. We've got a routine. We keep each other on track. It's a whole thing, right?" I said, nodding, even though I wasn't sure I believed her. Still, I didn't push. I wanted to be supportive. But what really threw me off was everything else that started changing around the same time. The gym was just the start. Samantha had always been attractive, don't get me wrong, but her style was simple. Drugstore shampoo, a bit of mascara if we were going out, jeans and soft t-shirts most days. She wasn't flashy, never had been. Now she was coming home with shopping bags from places I knew weren't cheap. High-end perfumes with French names I couldn't even pronounce. Her nails, done in these bright, glossy colors, every 2 weeks, without fail. New outfits, tight tops, heels, skirts that didn't look anything like office wear for the county clerk's office. I remember one night, she came in wearing something sleek and black I'd never seen before. "Wow, you look nice," I said. She smiled and tossed her purse onto the chair. "Thanks. You've been dressing up more lately," I said, trying to sound casual. "Just feel like putting in a little effort, that's all," she replied. "You don't think I look overdone, do you?" "No, not at all," I said. "You look great." And maybe that was all it was. Maybe she just wanted to feel good about herself while I was away. Maybe it was a midlife thing, wanting to feel confident again. I tried to support her. I really did. Even though it was draining our savings faster than I liked. By late July, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I'd lie awake in my sleeper cab, parked in some truck stop in Nebraska or Idaho, staring at the ceiling, thinking about her. The perfume, the nails, the dinners, the gym. It didn't add up. None of it felt like her anymore. And the more I tried to explain it away, the worse it got. Every time I told myself she was just being independent, that she was finding her own way while I was gone, my gut twisted even tighter. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who snoops around, the one who doesn't trust his wife. But I also couldn't live with not knowing. So I hired a private investigator. It cost me almost $6,000, not a small sum for me. That was a whole month's worth of fuel, meals, and motel nights. But I needed answers. I needed the truth, whatever it was. And the worst part? I didn't even feel guilty about it. That's how deep the doubt had sunk in. My gut was screaming at me that something wasn't right. The investigator was professional, calm, straightforward. He didn't jump to conclusions, just laid out the facts. "Give me 2 weeks," he said. "You'll have the full picture by then." And he wasn't lying. 2 weeks later, I had a thick folder in my hands and a password to access a secure online drive. Photos, videos, notes, timestamps, license plates, addresses, everything. Samantha was seeing at least 4 different men, regularly, all while I was out there on the road, busting my back to support us. There was a construction worker, big guy, came by in the afternoons during the week, parked down the block and walked to the house like he'd done it 100 times. Then there was an older guy, always in a gray suit. Showed up in the evenings. Sometimes brought wine. Another one was younger, maybe late 20s. Had a scruffy beard. Wore a leather jacket like he thought he was in a movie. He came by late at night. And one more. A man who showed up on weekend mornings. Always right after Samantha told me she had errands to run. The investigator called it a rotation. I've seen a lot, he said over the phone. But I've never seen anything quite like this. She's got them scheduled like appointments. Different men. Different days. Different times. He showed me the logs. Mondays and Wednesdays, it was the construction guy. Friday nights, the man in the suit. Saturday mornings, errands guy. Tuesdays, and sometimes Thursdays, the young one with the leather jacket. She had it down to a routine. The PI figured she'd been running this whole setup for at least 8 months. Maybe longer. And when I saw it all, laid out clear as day, no room for doubt, something broke inside me. Snapped clean in half. Then the PI told me something that made my blood run cold. 2 of them often showed up together. The construction guy and the man in the suit. Same afternoons. Like clockwork. I remember sitting in my cab that night, holding that report in my hands, staring at that one line. 2 of them. Together. In my house. The real breaking point came the next day. I had just picked up a load of furniture. It was supposed to be a cross-country run, 3 weeks on the road. Easy job. Decent pay. But it all fell apart before I even left the terminal. Dispatcher called early that morning. Warehouse fire in Denver, he said. Receiver can't take the load. Bring it back. We'll reassign you. I sat there in the truck yard, hands on the wheel, staring ahead. And then it hit me. The PI had mentioned the schedule. Tuesdays. 2 o'clock. That was one of their days. I didn't call Samantha. Didn't text. Didn't say a word. I just drove straight home. Pulled up around 2:15. Samantha's car wasn't in the driveway, but that didn't mean anything. She was supposed to be at work until 5. What did matter were the 2 other cars parked out front. One half up on the curb. I didn't need the photos. I knew those vehicles. The rusted red Chevy from the construction guy. The sleek gray Lexus the suit always drove. There they were. I just sat there for a moment. Engine running. Hands gripping the wheel. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Part of me still wanted to believe this was all some mistake. That maybe the PI had been wrong. Maybe I had. But I knew better. I shut off the engine, got out, walked up the steps like a man walking through a dream. Used my key, the same one I'd used for over 20 years. The second I opened the door, I heard them. Voices. Male. Plural. Upstairs. And the worst part? I didn't even have to guess which room they were in. Our bedroom. The room where Samantha and I had slept for over 2 decades. Where we made our kids. Where we laughed. Where we held each other through the hard times. And now, I stood there at the foot of the stairs. Frozen. My bag still in my hand. Every second that passed, I heard more. Floorboards creaking. Muffled conversation. Laughter. And still I stood there. Hoping. No. Begging that I was wrong. But after what felt like hours, though it couldn't have been more than a minute or 2, I let go of my bag and started climbing the stairs. My legs felt like they weighed 100 pounds each. But I had to see it with my own eyes. The bedroom door was cracked just enough for me to look inside without being seen. I stood there, breathing through my nose, trying to stay steady. What I saw matched exactly what the investigator had shown me. Only this time, it wasn't grainy photos. It wasn't video clips. It was real. Samantha, right there in the middle of our bed, with the construction guy and the man in the suit. All 3 of them naked, tangled in the blankets like it was just another afternoon in some cheap hotel, and not the home I'd built with my own hands. My bed. Something inside me snapped. A wire broke, clean through. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I pushed that door open so hard, it slammed into the wall with a crack. Samantha screamed. A full-on shriek, like she was the one being attacked. The 2 men jumped like I'd fired a gun. The construction guy grabbed for his pants, backing toward the window like he was about to jump. The man in the suit was scrambling on the floor, reaching for his shirt, face red as a beet. Looked like he might pass out. And Samantha? She just sat there, sheet pulled to her chest, eyes wide, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. And me? I just stood there, taking it all in. 22 years of marriage. 2 children. thousands of nights on the road, working to provide. And this was what I came home to. I still don't know how I managed to go after all three of them. Maybe it was pure rage. Maybe something deeper took over. But the moment I saw them, Samantha, the construction guy, and the older man in the suit, everything inside me exploded. Before they could move, I charged. The construction guy barely got his pants halfway up before I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall. His eyes went wide with fear. The man in the suit tried to retreat, but I caught him with a punch to the jaw. He stumbled back, crashing into the dresser. Samantha screamed again, her hands in the air like she could stop what was happening. And the third guy, the one trying to crawl away in a panic, was about to find out he was in my path next. I shoved him hard enough that he tripped over the bedpost and hit the floor with a grunt. All three of them were groaning, clutching at bruises, completely shaken. I stood over them, chest heaving, hands trembling, my whole body shaking with fury. Their fear, it was almost thick in the air, like they understood what a betrayed husband might be capable of. I looked at each one of them, feeling the full weight of 22 years of betrayal pressing down on my chest like a stone. Then, in a voice I barely recognized, low, raw, cold, I said, "Get out, before I put all of you in a grave." That was all it took. They scrambled, desperate, grabbing whatever bits of clothing they could get their hands on. Not one of them looked me in the eye. Not one dared to speak. They ran from that room like the devil himself was chasing them. I heard the front door slam once, then again. And just like that, silence. Only me and Samantha now. She started talking right there in the bedroom, still holding the sheet to her chest like it was armor, like it could protect her from what she'd done. Words spilled out of her mouth, fast and panicked. "Adrian, I swear this isn't what it looks like. I didn't mean for it to. It's complicated. Please, let me explain." I stepped in close. Real close. Close enough that she could see it in my eyes, the cold fire burning behind them. And I said it. 2 words. No shouting. No anger in my voice. Just ice. "Get out." She flinched. Like I'd hit her. Her mouth opened, closed again. She was trembling, looking around the room like she might find some way out of this. Then she lunged for her clothes on the floor. But I snapped. "Leave them right there." My voice cut through the air. "You walk out just like this. Let the world see you for who you are." I stood up straight, looking down at her. The finality in my voice made her freeze. She knew. There was no arguing. No begging. No room left for anything. She stumbled back, stepping on the sheet she was clutching. It slipped out of her hands. And I watched her go. Slow. Shaky. A shadow of the woman I thought I knew. I heard her bare feet on the stairs, each creak sounding like a countdown. Then the door slammed shut behind her. Silence again. Only the wreckage left behind. I just stood there for a while, looking around what used to be our bedroom. Then I went downstairs, still in my boots and jacket, and sat on the living room couch. I stared straight ahead like I was watching a blank screen. My body didn't move. I didn't eat. Didn't even take my boots off. Just sat there, frozen. My mind kept replaying it over and over. The confrontation, the fear in their eyes, Samantha's face when she saw me, wide-eyed and full of guilt. She knew the truth had caught up with her. Knew it the second I walked through that door. I must have sat there for hours. No food. No words. Just that numb kind of shock where time stops meaning anything. That night dragged on like the longest death I'd ever known. Every memory played on a loop. The photos, the videos, the schedule, our bed. And there was no coming back from that. No, we can work through this. No counseling. No second chances. It was over. The days that followed were hell. I walked around like a man who had lost everything, because I had. 22 years. And I came home to find her in our bed with 3 different men. Like I was nothing more than a paycheck with a wedding ring. The private investigator had laid it all out. Timeline. Photos. Timestamps. Names. She had been juggling this whole circus for months. But what hurt the most wasn't the cheating itself. It was realizing I was the only one who still thought we had a marriage. While I was out there crossing state lines, hauling someone else's life in boxes, she was here, keeping a calendar of boyfriends. Like it was a job. And once I started to see it, I couldn't unsee it. The way she always ran for the shower the second I walked in from a trip. Just want to freshen up, she used to say. Her phone, always screen down, always locked, always silent. And the excuses. God, the excuses. Why she didn't want to be intimate during my home weeks. Why she was too tired. Why her head hurt. Why she had an early morning. Back then, I believed her. I didn't want to think the worst. I told myself we were just getting older. That every marriage hits dry spells. I chalked it up to stress. Routine. But now I saw it all for what it really was. The gym. The clothes. The perfume. The high-end beauty treatments. She wasn't doing it for me. She wasn't trying to reconnect with me. She wasn't trying to reignite anything between us. No, she was maintaining herself. Polishing the product for her damn rotation. While I was out there, busting my back to support us, she was keeping everything just perfect for the parade of men coming through our home. The photos, the videos, the schedule, everything the PI had given me, and then what I saw with my own eyes. There was no denying it. No way to chalk it up to paranoia or insecurity. This was real, cold, brutal reality. She had built a second life, behind my back, right inside our home. While I was out there on the highway, putting in the hours, the miles, missing holidays, pushing to pay off the mortgage and save for retirement, she was turning our house into a revolving door. Like it was a damn hotel. Every greasy truck stop sandwich, every night spent parked under some flickering light in the middle of nowhere. I was out there thinking about us, about building a future, and she was here, sleeping with half the damn county. Eventually, we had to talk. It couldn't be avoided forever. She came over one afternoon after I told her I wanted a face-to-face. No texts, no emails, no more games. She sat across the living room from me, hands folded in her lap, like she was bracing for impact. She didn't even try to deny it. Adrian, she said, voice small and shaky. I'm not going to make excuses. I know what I did. I stared at her. You didn't do something, Samantha. You lived a double life. You turned our home into a damn brothel. Did you really think I'd never find out? I was lonely, she said, looking down at her hands. You were gone so much. Weeks at a time. I felt abandoned, like I didn't matter anymore. You didn't matter? I laughed, a bitter, sharp sound that didn't feel like it came from me. I missed birthdays, anniversaries, Christmases, everything, just to make sure you had the life you wanted, that we had what we needed. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. It got out of control. I couldn't stop once it started. I leaned forward. Do you love any of them? She shook her head fast. No. God, no. It wasn't like that. It was just physical, just something to fill the emptiness. Somehow, that made it even worse. If she'd told me she'd fallen in love with one of them, if there had been something real, I might have understood it on some level. But this? It was just recreation. A game. She got bored, so she used our house as her playground while I was hauling other people's lives across the country. Well, I said, standing up, I'm filing for divorce. First thing Monday morning. She didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't ask me to forgive her. She just nodded. I understand. 9 months. That's how long the divorce dragged on. 9 long, miserable months. Meetings. Paperwork. Lawyers. More paperwork. If it hadn't been for the PI's evidence, I don't know how bad it could have gotten. My lawyer told me her attorney initially planned to fight me on everything. The house, the savings, even my pension. But the laws in my state? They don't play around when it comes to infidelity. Especially when you've got time-stamped, photographic proof. In the end, I kept the house. Most of our savings. My retirement. She kept her job. And her boyfriend's, I guess. I remember sitting at the dining table one night, divorce papers spread out in front of me, and my old wedding band just lying there in the middle like a tombstone. I remember thinking, she gets to just move on. And in a way she did. Still working at the county clerk's office. Still walking around town like she didn't blow up a 22-year marriage. Maybe she's still seeing the same men. Maybe she found new ones. Who knows? The kids? Yeah, they took it hard. They're both grown now. Married. They've got families of their own. But it doesn't matter how old you are. Watching your parents' marriage fall apart guts you. They knew something was wrong. They'd heard it in my voice. Seen the way their mother and I wouldn't even share a room. When they asked what really happened, I told them the truth. I didn't sugarcoat it. I even showed them some of the PI's reports. Dates, photos, timelines. I had to. I didn't want them thinking this was just one of those quiet drifting apart stories. This wasn't some mutual decision. This wasn't my choice. My daughter cried. My son clenched his jaw so hard I thought he'd snap a tooth. They were disappointed, hurt, angry, but they're trying to keep some kind of relationship with her. And I'm not getting in the way of that. She's still their mother, no matter what she did to me. As for me, I'm still driving, still hauling freight across the country. The road hasn't changed, but the weight sure has. I don't call home every night anymore. I don't stare at my phone, hoping for a miss you or love you. I don't plan little surprises to bring home, or dream of the moment I walk through that door and see my wife's face. Because now I know. Some of those nights, when I called and she said she was just watching a movie or reading in bed, she wasn't alone. She had company. And now, I'm not rushing home anymore. I'm not counting down the miles just to walk through the door to someone who was probably counting down the minutes until I left again. There's a kind of freedom in that, I'll admit it. But freedom and loneliness? They're two sides of the same damn coin. The house feels mostly empty these days. Like a shell. I think about selling it sometimes. Starting over somewhere completely new. But for now, I hold on to it. Maybe out of spite. Maybe out of pride. Or maybe just because it's the only thing left that hasn't been tainted. It's mine. As for her, last I heard, she's still living in that same apartment near downtown. Still working the front desk at the clerk's office. Still smiling at everyone like she doesn't have a closet full of skeletons. People ask me about her sometimes. Old friends. Neighbors. What happened between you two? You always seemed so solid. I gave them the easy answer. We grew apart. The distance caught up to us. Most just nod and move on. But the ones who really knew her? They pause. Like they already know the truth, or at least enough of it. But what gets me the most? What still haunts me at night when I'm stretched out in the sleeper cab of my rig, staring at the ceiling? It's thinking about all those phone calls. All those nights I'd be parked at some lonely truck stop in the middle of nowhere, dialing her number just to say goodnight. Hearing her voice, soft, tired, telling me she missed me, that she was just watching TV or reading a book, waiting for me to come home. That image, that lie, was the only thing that kept me going through those long hauls. But now, I can't help but wonder what she was really doing. Was she sitting there smiling, planning which of her boyfriends to call next? The PI had shown me enough to know it wasn't just some one-time thing. At least two of those guys knew about each other. Some of them had been there at the same time. So yeah, this wasn't a secret. It was an operation. Did any of those men know she was married to a trucker breaking his back to pay the bills? Or did she paint me as some deadbeat who abandoned her? The investigator told me this kind of thing happens more than people want to admit. Long-distance marriages crack. It's not rare. But this wasn't an affair or two. This was systematic. I've been seeing a counselor. It's helping. Or at least trying to. She keeps telling me what Samantha did wasn't about me. That it was about her, her issues, her needs. And maybe that's true. Logically, I can understand it. But emotionally, it feels like 22 years of my life were nothing but a lie. The hardest part? The loneliness. After that much time together, your spouse becomes more than just your partner. They're your anchor, your home base, your safe harbor. Even when things weren't perfect, it was still familiar. Now I'm alone for the first time since my 20s. And honestly, I don't even know how to be single at 51. But I'm learning. One day at a time. 1 mile at a time. The road hasn't changed. The job hasn't changed. But everything else, it's different now. And maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe it's time I figure out who I really am, without a marriage that was rotting from the inside while I was too busy working to notice. I've got no plans to remarry. Not anytime soon. Trust doesn't just bounce back after something like this. Not for me. It's like trying to glue together a shattered vase. Sure, you can piece it back together, but the cracks will always show. Still, I'm not closing the door. Maybe somewhere out there, there's someone who actually wants a real partnership. Not a side deal. Not a fallback plan. Not a rotation. Someone who wants to build something real. Something honest. For now, though, I'm focusing on me. Learning how to enjoy my own company again. And it hasn't been easy. Not after all those years spent leaning on someone else. I'm exploring places I've passed 1,000 times on the road but never really saw. The little towns, the diners, the quiet parks. I'm building a life that's mine. One that no one can betray. One that no one can twist into something ugly. It's not the life I imagined when I said I do all those years ago. But it's honest. And after living in lies for God knows how long, honest feels damn good.